History was made today when Admiral Linda Fagan shattered the military glass ceiling and became the new Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard. Fagan is now the first woman and mother to lead any branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. She has served in the Coast Guard for nearly 4 decades across all 7 continents. Fagan says one of her top priorities will be increasing diversity in the Coast Guard. President Biden noted the importance of this historic moment, saying it's about time.
We currently have nearly 40% women enrolled at the Coast Guard Academy. I'm really excited about the talent and the diversity that I see coming through the Academy. My daughter is in the Coast Guard as a lieutenant, and there is just nothing but opportunity for her and all of the men and women that have joined the service. I'm really excited about the future as we look ahead.
A few years later,
President Donald Trump fired the head of the U.S. Coast Guard, Admiral Linda Fagan. She was the first female leader of a U.S. Armed Forces branch in American history. Benjamin Huffman, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, revealed the ousting in a memo on Trump's first day in office, saying the 4-star admiral was out and Admiral Kevin E. Lundy was in as the service's acting commander. A senior DHS official told Fox News Fagan was terminated over a failure to address border threats, delays and cost overruns in the Coast Guard's icebreaker and helicopter programs, and DEI efforts taking attention away from operational imperatives.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about more fireworks from Trump's first day in office because he is making some big moves that is pissing off the Democrats and the mainstream liberal media.
Will return the Constitution to do his evil and wrongness.
Let's put some stuff up here. He was very excited about the end diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the federal government. What's the impact?
Yeah, so that's obviously very bad. It's particularly evil to. I always think of prisoners, people who are incarcerated who have changed, who have transitioned. According to this, you're going to take trans women and put them in male prisons. What do we think is going to happen to them there?
Yeah.
That's not going to be a good day.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a thing that has real impact. There's also a real obvious equal protection challenge. And so, again, Trump will do this. He will be sued. This is one of the ones that could be, if not completely stopped, delayed. But there will be people who suffer unconscionable pain because of what he's doing, and not in the kind of like, somebody just called Gracie George. No. These are people who are going to be hurt and physically assaulted because of Trump's executive order.
2 of the renamings we were talking about,
which means that he's making a lot of good moves, right? He's getting the country back on track. Okay, and one area that Trump and the Republicans really want to clean up is the military and ridding the military of wokeness, a toxic ideology that has harmed our military. And it is something that will be fixed under Pete Hegseth, right? I have no doubt in my mind that Pete Hegseth is going to make the military the most lethal fighting force that we've ever had in this country's history, okay? And a part of doing that means that you have to get rid of some of the people who are not focused on what the military is supposed to be about, okay? Which is supposed to be about fighting wars, okay? And protecting this country, okay? And Trump is doing that because he has just upset the Democrat Party by firing Admiral Linda Fagan, who is the first female commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, okay? I think she's like the first female to lead a branch of the military, and we all know why she was hired. I mean, we all know, okay? She's one of these let's make history hires, right? And they chose the Coast Guard, okay? That's what they did. So we already know that there are questions about why this woman got the job in the first place, but she got the job, and now she doesn't have a job because Trump basically fired her on the first day, okay? And now the Democrats and CNN, they're going to boo-hoo, whine, and cry about it, and they're going to try to connect this back to DEI, even though it is clear that this woman got fired for performance reasons.
I want to go now to some breaking news. A Department of Homeland Security official confirming that the Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard has been removed from her position over leadership deficiencies. That was a quote. And operational failures. I have extensively reported on the Coast Guard's cover-up of sexual assault cases. We don't know if that played a role at all in this. CNN's Natasha Bertrand joins us now for more. I mean, this is a pretty significant move, Natasha.
It is, Pamela, if not just because it really shows that this could be a sign of things to come in terms of how President Trump and his administration deal with military leaders that they feel are perhaps focusing too much on diversity and inclusion initiatives, which is one of the stated reasons, according to this DHS official, why Admiral Fagan was relieved of her duties as Commandant of the Coast Guard. Now, we did ask the Department of Homeland Security for reasons why she was relieved, and they did send us a list that included things like failure to address border security threats, prioritization of those DEI initiatives, which Secretary of Defense, future Secretary of Defense, if he is confirmed, Pete Hegseth has said is going to be one of his priorities in removing from the department once he does get installed here, as well as Operation Fouled Anchor, which is that investigation into sexual assault and sexual abuses committed at the Coast Guard Academy that was covered up by the Coast Guard beginning in around 2018. Now, Admiral Fagan, she was not directly involved in that. However, she did signal to members of Congress last year when she was grilled on the sexual assault investigation that was not disclosed to Congress that she was aware of certain aspects of it. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, that is one reason why they felt like she needed to be terminated as part of her in her position there. But still, you know, I think the broader picture here is that this is the first kind of, termination of a senior military leader that we have seen that has been explicitly kind of linked to the promotion of those diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within the military. And in fact, this is not the first time that the Coast Guard has been targeted by Trump's allies. Back in August, former GOP Representative Matt Gaetz sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security raising concerns about Fagan's alleged focus on these initiatives over, for example, other more important things like, he said, recruiting and focusing on interdicting drugs at the borders.
Senator.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the last time that some high-ranking military official gets fired for not focusing on the right things. But there was nothing there that I listened to and I was like, oh, no, that's not fair, right? Because ultimately, to me, it sounds like she wasn't focused on the right thing, okay? The core mission as the leader of that military branch, she had operational failures. Apparently, the Coast Guard was facing challenges under her leadership with recruitment. Okay, so they weren't recruiting enough people, which, again, is a reflection of leadership. I don't know who would want to join the woke Coast Guard. Again, I'm just saying, like, if I'm somebody thinking about joining the military, okay, or any organization, really, yeah, you want to look at the people at the top, right? You want to say, hey, does this person look like they should be running this thing, okay? What are their focus? What are they focused on? Oh, she's focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, not on how to fight, right? Yeah, I think that's a problem. I think that's an issue. So again, issues with recruiting. There were delays in critical acquisitions, such as the procurement of new icebreakers. So again, she's not making sure that the military has the equipment that they need on time. They've talked about the handling of these Me Too investigations. Apparently, she hasn't done a great job with that. And then you also have, again, the focus on DEI. Okay, and this is just in conflict with what the president wants to see when it comes to the ideology of the military and what the military should be focused on. I'm not entirely sure why the military feels like DEI is so important, right? I don't think it's necessary. I think that is making it hard for the military to recruit. I think it's making it harder for them to do their jobs. I think they're focused on the wrong things. And one of the best parts about this new Trump administration is the fact that, hey, I can go to sleep at night knowing that our military is not focused on woke nonsense.
Thank you so much for coming on. First, your reaction to some of these actions. Go ahead.
No, I think it's appalling that the head of Homeland Security is firing the very Admiral, Commandant of the Coast Guard, who took this issue of fouled anchor that you guys broke as a story. Why? Because it was being covered up. Literally, issues of sexual assault and sexual harassment at the Coast Guard Academy and at sea. and people covered it up. The only reason we know about it is because CNN broke the news.
Wait, hold on now. Let me correct you on that. Right? Hold on. The reason why nobody knew about it is because CNN covered it. Right? If CNN was the only outlet that covered this, then I guarantee you, nobody knew about this. Right? This is not something that a lot of people knew about. We gotta correct that one. That is not correct.
Now we get a new commandant, the first woman commandant in the history of an armed forces of our nation to serve. She stood up and said, this is a problem and we have to deal with it. And so literally tried to move forward with the right kind of response in the Coast Guard to this issue of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And today she's being fired for, instead of covering it up, deciding that this needed to be exposed and the Coast Guard needed to deal with this issue. So I think it's the wrong decision. It's the wrong decision by Homeland Security. She did a good job. In fact, the last commandant was the one who did cover it up. I think he admitted to you that he covered it up. So what are we doing here today? Firing somebody who was on the job, helping a Coast Guard that has to have a basic diverse workforce. And one of the things they need in a diverse workforce is to protect those interests of women.
Again, shout this woman's pretending like this woman is getting fired because of the whole Me Too thing. Her, I guess, trying to get to the bottom of the issue. I don't think that's why she's been fired, right? I think she's been fired because there probably hasn't been much done in regards to rectifying the issue. And also on top of that, she's just incompetent, right? And she's focused on the wrong stuff and she shouldn't be there. Okay.
Why do you think you guys are failing to hit your numbers right now?
It was a combination of capacity, and we've reinvested in that capacity. We are not always understood by the totality of the American people. So, beginning to increase awareness and understanding of who we are as a Coast Guard. And just as the shipyards are looking for workforce, we're competing with employers and other militaries, across the country for workforce. And, young people have had some feelings with regard to work, and all of that has come together to make it a challenge.
Yeah, instead of hiring people based on their merit alone, I'm asking you what programs have been implemented within the last couple of years that focus solely on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I'll have the staff give you, we value diversity, but the talent.
We've always valued diversity in this country, but we all know that we used to have a system that was more based on merit. I'm asking you specific questions about what specific programs have been implemented under your watch within the last couple of years that focus on DEI.
I'll have the staff work with your staff. I can't immediately say this program initiated in the last 2 years. Again, the programs all focus on ensuring workforce that meets the standards is able to serve honorably in the service, and that we hire a workforce that meets our standards.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. I think Trump made the right decision, right? I think Trump made the right decision, okay? I am happy to see that Trump is serious about the promises that he made, okay? If you guys didn't see, I forgot to talk about this, but Trump also stripped John Bolton of his security clearance, okay? Which I think is honestly a savage move that I think is worth talking about, because what does it say about John Bolton in regards to how much Trump dislikes John Bolton, that he's like, nah, I know that the Iranians have launched death threats against you, but I don't care. I'm taking away the Secret Service.
Bolton security clearance, sir.
Because I think that was enough time. It's we take a job. You take a job. You want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well, because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger. He's the one that got us involved, along with Cheney and a couple of others, convinced Bush, which was a terrible decision, to blow up the Middle East. We blew up the Middle East and we left. We got nothing out of it except a lot of death. We killed a lot of people, and John Bolton was, one of those guys, a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life. You shouldn't expect it for life.
It's just into CNN after revoking the security clearance of dozens of former intelligence officials, including his former national security advisor, John Bolton. We're now learning that President Trump has pulled Bolton's security detail as well.
Let's get straight to Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, what can you tell us?
Yeah, we saw a lot of first moves that Trump was making as soon as he took office yesterday with all of those executive orders and a flurry of activity. One thing that went quietly unnoticed is that he also terminated the Secret Service detail that is assigned to Ambassador John Bolton, of course, one of Trump's national security advisors in his first term. This is a detail that was assigned to him when he was the national security advisor then. But when he left the Trump White House in the fall of 2019, Trump actually terminated his Secret Service protection then. And it was only later, after President Biden took office, that later in 2021, he restored that security to John Bolton. So
reaction to Trump revoking your security detail, ending your Secret Service detail?
Well, I've had better days, that's for sure. This is, I think, typical of Trump the man. This is the kind of character or lack thereof who's now president. You know, when President Biden, recognizing the threat against me and several other current and former U.S. government officials, authorized the Secret Service to restore protection, which I had when I was National Security Advisor. I'm sure he probably wasn't the happiest man in the world because of the criticisms that I've made of him on his foreign policy. But he did it because it's simply not permissible to allow a rogue state like the terrorists in Iran to threaten Americans, whether they're in government or not, simply for expressing opinions or, in the case of the government employees, doing their job. Trump has decided to reverse it. It's obviously within his power to do it. But I think this is a matter that people should take seriously and let them contemplate who made the right decision here, President Biden or President Trump.
Well, let me ask. Yeah, so a couple of savage moves that I wanted to talk about here from the Trump administration. I think that it shows that he means business. Okay, and I got to tell you guys, I am in shock and awe at the fact that Trump is executing so perfectly, right? The first 2 days, I mean, it's been damn near perfect. I don't have anything to complain about, to be honest with you, okay? Trump has, at the very least, met my expectations. He may have exceeded them. And, you know, hey, I think this country's headed in the right direction. I am very, very, very happy right now with what I'm saying. So I'm just hoping that the momentum continues, because I think great things are coming over the next 4 years. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.